That's right, guys, because I've got two now, and both of these work. Yes, I finally fixed this old thing. And, well, so, Doctor Who, Series 11, Episode 7, Kerblam! Yes, Kerblam. Apparently, that's a name now. And it's not only just a name, it's the name of a company. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say about this episode, other than I feel home again? Really, that's the only, honest reaction I have for this. And let me just explain what I mean by that when I say I feel home again. First of all, this is my personal favorite episode of this season, and I'll tell you why I'm using the word personal. I always try to make two sets of sort of favorites with roughly anything. I always use the word personal as to something that's my personal favorite, and the word the best to something that I personally think is the best, even though it is not my personal favorite. That's just the way my mind works on these things. So far, up to this point, I think the best episode of this series is still Rosa, followed almost immediately by Demons of the Punjab. But my favorite personal episode is Kerblam. Why am I saying that? Because this episode feels so much like the David Tennant era that I grew up with, that I loved. That's where I discovered the show. That's where I fell in love with the show over 10 years ago. And that is really the era, not just of the era of Doctor Who, the era of my life that has defined me the most and has turned me into the man I was today. Because I did not really have a good teenage years. And that's when I discovered Doctor Who, and that's when everything changed, and the David Tennant era has literally everything to do with it. And, you know, I have enjoyed Doctor Who subsequently. I've enjoyed the Matt Smith era. I even enjoyed the Peter Capaldi era. I even enjoyed John Hurt more than I thought I would. I've enjoyed all the other series that have come out after Series 4 of Doctor Who, the final series officially of David Tennant. But yeah, it from that moment on, when Matt Smith stepped onto the scene, it felt like Doctor Who. It just didn't feel like my Doctor Who. And I love Matt Smith, but his episodes and his stories didn't really feel as Doctor Who-ish as the David Tennant stuff. And this episode, Kerblam, is probably the most Doctor Who episode that I felt in years. The episode itself felt the most like the David Tennant run of episodes, from the overarching menace to the threat to the human characters, right down to even some of the action sequences. I think, honestly, this is Jodie Whittaker's best performance yet as the Doctor. This is where we fully get to see her become the authority figure that we all know her to be when she steps in and asserts herself as the highest level of authority in the universe in front of the people running the company of Kerblam. And that's really just what I believe is the defining moment of Jodie Whittaker's career so far, and I'm sure we're going to get more of those in the coming weeks and possibly even next year, hopefully. As far as companions go, I believe this is the first episode where we finally get to see every single companion get something to do. Ryan, for example, gets to work with the Doctor in the packaging area of the Kerblam company. Yaz gets to go to the warehouse, which actually I connected a lot because I used to work at a warehouse once. And Graham goes to work at maintenance. Every single companion had something to do. Every single companion met a different character from the specific section that he went to, and connected with that specific character and managed to get special information from that character. In Ryan and the Doctor's case, it was Kira. In Yaz's case, it was Dan Cooper. And in Graham's case, it was Charlie. Then things really started to pick up as soon as you got more of the face of the company and see exactly who's running the thing and who's calling the shots. And it's this guy, Slade.
I am Slade!
Slade!
First of all, never trust a guy named Slade. Let's just be clear on that.
Slade!
But he was basically a bait and switch character and I loved it. I really felt like he was the main bad guy, as I probably was supposed to feel, but ultimately it turned out that he wasn't really the bad guy. So then my mind ultimately went to the system. The system is controlling these Kerblam Man robots to kill people, essentially. But then, once you actually get to the realization moment of the episode, and if you compare it to last week's episode, the Demons of the Punjab, that's ultimately the moments where the Fajarians reveal who they really were all along. That's when you really discover that it was actually Charlie, the bad guy all along. And the story and the message behind this episode and Charlie's motives, I think, resonated the most with me, and with I think it's going to resonate mostly with people living in this era where automation is literally taking over our lives. Even that line of, we were too busy looking at our phones, we weren't looking at the skies, or whatever it was that was said in this episode. That, I felt really connected to it. Especially since I personally work at a factory, and yes, I work with robots literally all the time, and yeah, I feel it. I basically do a robot's work for him, but whatever. Overall, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. This is my personal favorite episode of the season. As I mentioned, this is the episode that made me feel the most at home with Doctor Who. This is the episode that made me feel at most like the David Tennant era, which I fell in love with in the first place. I really love the Fez connection. I really love the Unicorn and the Wasp connection that was actually kind of came back in a big way later in the episode, with this whole episode being a mystery episode. These are the types of episodes I actually liked about the Capaldi era. Like, for example, Time Heist. I think this is probably the Time Heist episode version of this new series. Not that I'm comparing these two, I definitely think that this episode is a lot better than Time Heist, but that's irrelevant at this point. Finally, guys, a little bit of a downer, but I realize I'm very late with this review / recap, and the reason for that is, well, this episode kind of came at a very bad time, scheduling wise, and I actually watched this episode 3 or 4 days ago, but it was during a very intense work cycle, and I figured I really don't want to do this review / recap after work when I'm just super tired and I can barely even get a single word out. I figured you guys, the 10 people who are probably watching this review right now, I figured you guys deserve a lot better from me, so I decided to stay professional. I decided to just wait with this review to the right time so I can be the most straightforward with my review, and I think the end result was tremendous. So, thank you for watching, guys. Remember, we still got 3 more episodes, I believe, left in this series, and I believe you've probably already heard the news by now that things might not be going so well with Doctor Who right now. I hope these rumors are not true. I really hope Doctor Who continues for another 2,000 years from now. So, happy birthday, Doctor Who! And as for you guys, I'll see you guys next time. Hello again, everybody. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, where I do all kinds of weird stuff like showcase all these things, trailer reactions, movie reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. So, until next time, I'll see you guys next time.